Thank you for coming here today. We're going to be talking about the Krusty Krab Catastrophe. We are Team Jax. I'm Andrew. This is Carmen. This lovely man is Xiao Tong. And over here we have James. So we're going to tell you a little bit about our project background, where it came from, a few design components, and eventually we'll get to the Q&A where you can ask your own questions. So our project background, decided around a goal. We wanted something that was interactive. We wanted something that was competitive, a little bit difficult. You could get better at it, and overall fun for everyone, gender neutral. Our final design ended up being the Krusty Krab Catastrophe, a 2 to 4 player game consisting on a board where you're trying to knock the patties into the catapults and rocket them back into the bucket in the middle. So the story goes a little bit like this. Plankton's after the Krabby Patty's secret formula, and he got all the patties onto a conveyor belt going back to the chum bucket. So he's trying to flip it in there and get the formula. But it's up to SpongeBob to save the day. So he's trying to collect the patties before they get to Plankton and get them back into the Krusty Krab. Here I'm going to hand it off to Xiao Tong to talk about the mechanisms.
So our toy has 3 mechanisms. First mechanism is the Krabby Patty flipper, which is essentially just a 3-bar linkage. You have this little nub on the top. You move this little nub back and forth to move the arm from side to side. The second mechanism is the Krabby Patty launcher. It is a catapult that flips the patties from the basket to the bucket in the middle. And the last mechanism is simply a DC motor-powered rotating disc as a conveyor base for the patties. I'll pass to James talking about fabrication process.
All right, so the first thing I'd like to point out is these 2 characters were actually 3D printed. The rest were custom-made parts from pieces of wood and acrylic sheets. So as you can see in the pictures, that's kind of the basic rundown of how things went. I have a workshop back home. I took it over home break. I was able to cut everything we needed, glue it up together, bring it back, and then towards the end there you can see us starting to paint it and make everything look nice. So now I'm going to pass it off to Carmen, who's going to talk about the next part of our slide.
So now we're going to have a live demonstration of this toy. So gentlemen, if you could get ready. So basically, once again, to reiterate, the main objective is to flip the Krabby Patties into the bucket. But the players need to be aware because there are obstacles like bananas as well as strawberries. And what they need to do is that they need to make sure that they don't flip it into the wrong bucket. Additionally, if they put it into the bucket of their opponent gets that point. So they can try again and again. And something that you'll notice is that the velocity of the spinner can vary, which is actually good because then the user can then, if they get really good at this game, they can increase the speed and challenge themselves. So basically, this is how you'd play the game. But something that we were also considering is that this is not only a 2-person game, but also a 4-person game if you put one person onto, one person takes the launcher and another person takes the flipper. But you can also, remove them and have them as solo play. They can be action figures, when you're playing by yourself, or they can serve as collectibles. And because they can be removed, you can have, the entire lineup of the cast. You have Squidward, Gary the Snail, as well as Patrick. These can be replaced and put into the game. And so the user has more options and choose their favorite characters. Additionally, the game piece itself, it can be replaced. So new stories, new challenges. If the bases change, the story changes, but the characters can remain the same. So really, this wraps up everything, and we're now open for some Q&A.
What was the inspiration for the actual gameplay?
So a big part of the game type is we wanted to make something that was interactive to the point where you're fully involved in it. Some toys you can start and they'll keep going. Some toys you can, just kind of let go on their own. But we wanted something you'd be fully involved in. And part of that was to have another player involved. And the best way to do that is, of course, with a game you can place on your tabletop. You can get your friends together, 2 to 4 players, even have 3 people. And just kind of play together. Everything you do is completely interactive on this toy.
Have you ever tested this with kids?
No, we haven't had the opportunity to.
I think we're still
was less of a question and more of a comment. I like the idea of SpongeBob. I get the Krabby Patty scenario, but it would be interesting too if you had different characters that people could buy, like as expansion packs or things like that for people to use from a marketing perspective.
We didn't have enough. We did not have enough material. I mean, just creating these two characters alone, we used all the 3D printing material that was allotted to us. So we really couldn't create more characters, and especially since we were concerned about being gender neutral in terms of the color schemes, but also the characters that are offered. SpongeBob does have female roles like Sandy the Squirrel, Pearl, as well as Mrs. Puff. So I mean, we wanted to add those two as into our product offerings, but just the time and the material that was allotted to us, we couldn't fulfill that. Any other questions?
Could you use real food as part of the game?
That's something we considered. You could probably use real food and then try to catapult it into your mouth or into somebody else's mouth. All right, thank you very much.